Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nass, the student of the game.
I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
And you're listening to this thing on the Believe Podcast Network. Yes, the hope is to get Bucky Brooks in. There's been some issues. We'll see if we can work through those. But in the meantime, there's still plenty of Jacksonville Jaguar football stuff to talk. And hey, we be going on Wednesday, no matter what the headliner is or not. So nonetheless, there's a few things we got to bring up. And listen, let's get the house clean and under the way, because I do have some thoughts on this. The international schedule has been announced for the NFL, and it would help if I would push the right button when there we go. And the Jacksonville Jaguars have announced their games officially. I know we speculated about who the second opponent might be on the last edition of the Duval Dive. But Travis, the Texans were already official, and now we see the week before another back-to-back London special for the Jaguars. The Eagles are the other opponent in London. I don't know if you have a particular thought about hosting the Eagles in London there, such that is, I say hosting as if the Jags are the regulars there, right? I suppose that would be the perceived advantage, right?
This was a weird one because the Jaguars obviously had the opportunity to protect the game, and I can see why they wouldn't have from a few different vantage points, and maybe we'll talk about that on Thursday when we have the full schedule release. But the gist of it being is they had an opportunity to kind of protect multiple AFC games that matter more than the NFC opponents, like at the end of the day. And you have the Eagles, while they are a competitor and they are a dominant team, you can't protect everything. And the NFL is obviously going to do what's best for the bag. So they moved a very big game that was likely going to be able to sell out a stadium over to a bigger market where the teams also make more money. So from the NFL perspective, from the Shields perspective, that made total sense that would be one of the ones that the Jaguars didn't protect, from my perspective at least. And it also made more sense from the NFL perspective of that to be one of the ones that they get moved over there because the Jaguars are going to be playing in a limited capacity stadium. So from overall, I got why it happened from both sides, even though a lot of people in the fan base are kind of crashing out a little bit over them not being a home game in Jacksonville.
I mean, frankly, I kind of like it too, right? I would rather see that happen. And by the way, the other thing worth mentioning too is there's supposed to be at least some loose construction things happening this season, right? Granted, not for all the home games, but listen, if there's a year that you're going to have a home game, be a little wonky that you'd like to see, it would probably be this one where the experience might be somewhat limited anyway with what's going on. And I got to tell you, Travis, in this particular instance, from the Jaguars franchise money-making perspective, there's two things about it. A, you already mentioned the market thing. That's a big deal too. But for me, and you can correct me on this if you remember better than I do. You're the card-carrying member after all. But I feel like getting some element of the division games to the London fans makes sense because listen, perhaps the remote satellite office of the Jacksonville Jaguar, Duval Devout, needs to see firsthand how much these teams don't like each other. Now, granted, that would probably be better suited for a Titans game, but I think there's some there to get the London fans involved in that part of it.
I mean, I can only speak from the vantage point of someone who's a part of the Duval Devout in the States. I can't really speak from the UK perspective of the tea and crumpets from over. I don't even know what tea and crumpets in Duval would be over there. But because all right, there's two sides of this conversation as far as the Houston game is concerned.
Right.
Like this is weird because it's obviously an AFC South game. It's obviously an important game. With the stakes being so high, the split being so close, is just between these two teams, both being playoff teams and everything else. The fact that the Texans are so dominant on defense and also able to potentially be the team that knocks Jacksonville off as the AFC South champion makes it so that dang, that's really one you wanted to protect. That's the one that you didn't want to hold on to in Jacksonville. That's not one of the ones you protected, and instead you protected the Steelers game. Reportedly, at least, that's one of the ones that they protected, that the Jaguars chose to protect. And it's like, all right, that's tough to swallow. But there's another side of that coin is, hey man, the Texans don't play internationally. The last time they played internationally was back in 2019.
Right.
So like they don't have very much experience overall. They're only 1-1 internationally, and they haven't played again in you're talking like 7 years. So as far as them being a novice to the process, and maybe that could work out well for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I can see both sides of that. And so again, it's not a crazy thing for me because you could even told me that the Jaguars protected the Colts game because they ain't won since I don't what 14 years, 15 years, something like that.
They're at that point, right?
Yeah, so like you might be able to sell me on that, like the fact that they protected the Colts game just because they're not giving that up, and I'll be like, all right, that might make some sense. So at the end of the day, you only have 2 games you can protect the season. You got to make a choice, and it's going to be a difficult one either way. So they obviously decided it not to be the Houston Texans, and we're going to see if that's the right decision when they come out with a W or an L in week 6.
Well, and this tells me that the front office believes we don't like that other team in Tennessee is the prevailing thought above everything else, even still. And listen, again, I'm not a card carrying member, but if that's actually what's going on, if my speculation is correct, I kind of like that. From my perspective, preserving, let's keep the big hate local. And then from the standpoint you mentioned, the Texans not having played the game in a while, over and above the fact that the Jags would have had time to settle in because the previous week they would have gotten to town to play the Eagles. That's already done. They're there. They're comfortable. In come the Texans. There's something to say for that as well, especially if you believe Buffalo fans from a few seasons back. Not for nothing.
No, that's fair. That's actually gives them that rest and relaxation and not having any jet lag and anything along those lines because they've been there for the whole time. That's a good point. That's actually a reasonable sales pitch, though. If I remember correctly, that didn't matter the last time they had 2 games back to back in London. If I remember correctly, I thought the Jaguars started off slow in the following week, in the second week in that game. I forgot who they played against.
It was the Bears and the Pats, if I remember correctly, that they did. And then the year before, it was somebody and the Bills were making all the excuses. Oh, something jet lag. I'm going back to Calvin Ridley's involvement. So that's how long ago that particular year was. But even still, it's all different perspectives from it. I'll say this. Should the Texans lose that game, the Houston fans will be all like, oh, jet lag. Oh, you had the advantage. That's all I know. So
fans want to always try to find whatever reason they can for their team to be disadvantaged. And there's always a reason to say you didn't get the best, the whatever it is, the straw.
Best opportunity,
yeah. So like I understand that. This always going to be the case somewhere here. But at the end of the day, the Jaguars will be playing their 2 home games away in London. We already knew that. Now we just know what the teams are. It's going to be the Eagles. It's going to be the Texans. We're going to see again how well that works out for them because again, losing an AFC South game to London is a pretty big thing. And then this for it to be one of the best teams in the division is a moderately huge thing. And we already know the opponents. We don't know the order. We know the opponents.
Yeah.
And the opponents make this a reasonably difficult schedule. Like, let's just not pretend. And again, we're going to get into a lot more of that this offseason just when we can, especially with the schedule release happening tomorrow. We're going to have a special Duval dive live tomorrow night when we kind of go through the schedule, many rough stretches, and all of that. So, yeah, I know we don't normally do Thursdays, but you guys stay tuned on that.
Yeah, but hey, it's an instant reaction. Things happen, man. And by the way, Robert Lamison in the comments, the Patriots and Falcons London games were in 2023. Yeah, but there was a Bears game somewhere in there too. This is the one I remember in particular, that game, because you were pissed, Travis. You felt like the team kind of quit.
Man, when am I not pissed? I'm always pissed.
Well, I don't know about always. You seem pretty happy after that Kansas City game there that Monday night.
I have a "this team makes me drink" shirt. Matter of fact, 2 of them. Yes, I'm always pissed. I understand. Last decade, I'm a Jacksonville Jaguars fan for the last decade and a half. I'm absolutely gonna be a little pissed all the time.
Are you like Teal Hulk? I'm always angry. Is it?
Yes, absolutely. That's it.
Teal Hulk. I did not have that coming up on the bingo card, but here we are, Travis. Gotcha. And this is before we jump into the question of whether the Jaguars did enough to retain the division. This would be a good segue, but you have something else here in the trade that I want to go over before we get into that. And, listen, we've talked about The evidence is right here. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, if you're watching on the podcast or you're listening on the podcast, go to the YouTube channel so you could be reminded of the Duval Deals Ranked episode about us talking about Jimmy Stone's potency or shall we say penchant for trades and deals and wheeling and dealing and all of that. And when we were talking about during the show, I think you set the over under for the rest of the season at 2.5. Do you see Jimmy Stone's over or under 2 trades here in the offseason here leading up to kickoff?
If you're talking before week 1 of the regular season, let's take this thing back. Like, because obviously they had a boatload of trades last year. And if you're just talking about, again, between the draft and before week 1, they traded away Luke Fortner, Fred Johnson, the Tim Patrick trade.
Are you counting Kalen Saunders in there?
Well, Luke Fortner was the Colin Saunders trade. It's one trade for both. It was 1-to-1, guy to guy.
You got
and then you had so you got 3 trades after the draft before week 1, and you had a 4th trade that took place a day after the first game. So that was the Tank Bigsby trade that took place the day after the week 1 game. So overall, you got 3 trades between the draft and the week 1 game, 4 if you really want to throw in Tank Bigsby in that conversation. You give me the over under on 1.5 trades, but also based on where this roster is, and you have to assume somebody's not going to work out as far as their competition, and they're going to get offered a 3rd round, 2nd round pick, whatever it may be. Yeah, I'm still gonna have to take the over until they show me otherwise.
Take the over on 2.5 before.
No, on 1.5. I'm saying 2+.
Oh, okay. I thought you said it at 2. Okay, so I thought you said it at 2.5. We'll see.
No, I said it at 1.5. Yeah.
I'm gonna set it at 2.5 because that's a more challenging number. Because 1.5 feels like it's too damn easy.
3 trades. I think they're gonna be calling on everybody, but I don't know about it happening. Is the question. Because of where this roster is. Again, if you saw the draft and how the draft process actually went, then you kind of have to believe that they believe in their depth. They believe in where they are. They maybe trying to make some splash plays for maybe top guys if they happen to become available, your Max Crosby's or whatever. But for the most part, you're looking at a team who seems to believe in what they have and just the growth and whatever that's going to be. Then I'm like, I don't know if you're going to see as many of the lower rung trades like the Tim Patricks, because they probably believe in them a lot more of the guys they have on the lower rungs now.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And by the way, the tight end pickups, I think, are what they're relying on replacing Tim Patrick. Taking nothing from Tim Patrick, I think he was, what was it? It was a small but important part in this ensemble of Jacksonville Jaguar team and talent, right? But at day's end, I hear where you're going, right? Now, I'll say this. Walker Little is still a piece on the board that could be moved. I can't rule that out, right? Also, with them bringing in Pregnon with the arguably the best air quotes value-based draft pick, that might make the guard room a little bit, shall we say, crowded, right? Say what you will, is Patrick McCarry a piece that they can move? Is how do they feel about Jonah Monheim? Are they going to keep him around? What does that do from Wyatt Milam's status? Or all those moot because he's going to wait on them comp picks? But all of the above to say, there's still opportunity for movement. But that being said, 1.5 makes it easy. I think you definitely put the over at 2 or more for sure. 2.5 feels tall. But you're right. I'm still going to take that. And you know what it is? It's because they had, like you said, they had so many draft picks. I can't get past that part. That's a great point by you.
Yeah. But it's a weird one. But again, I think I wouldn't be shocked if they had less trades, just because, again, I don't know if teams are actually going to be going through with a lot of those with James, even though you're always going to hear his name involved and kind of investigating all of these different trade options and all of these different opportunities as far as that's concerned. But again, I think they just feel like they probably have less deficiencies right now. So I'm just like, we'll see where it lands though.
PJ Brown comes in from the comments. Thank you for the super chat. Y'all, I already got over $300 in Jags bets for 2026. Damn. And it's May. That's what I'm talking about. I already got over $300 in Jags bets for 2026. This is PJ Brown 12. Bucky's on me at the Commanders game this year. Shoot, listen, if you go into the church at Bucky's, we might have to have a conversation, PJ. I might have to see what I can do, credentialed or not.
Bro. But that boy said Bucky's on me. They're not even an advertiser. And I got the Bucky's gummy bears on the pod right now.
Hail Bucky's, that's right.
Hail Bucky's. All right, Lord. Hey, appreciate you, PJ. Hey, man.
But
we're talking a lot about the depth and a lot about the trades and everything else, because that's kind of how they chose to fill that depth, because they were still going to be limited on the number of draft picks that they had last year. And this is kind of where it gets real. Like, I guess I don't want to say it gets interesting, but there were a few surprises throughout this season that I was just like, I don't know where exactly that they were thinking as far as this concerned. Like, I'm looking at the depth chart. I'm looking at what they did and didn't do with this offseason. And I was just like, dang, what was the one move that they didn't do that kind of surprised you? Because, like, for me, obviously, it's like, I think for most of the Duval devout, it's probably either going to be linebacker or DT. But I don't know. I'm just like,
yeah, you said it last year. Linebacker surprised me, right? We remember how low Kyle was on Devin Lloyd. Thank you for reminding me how wrong I was on him again, Travis. But all of the above to say, I think you mentioning linebacker could be a place where a move could still be made, right? I'm not saying they're going to ship Ventrell Miller, but for the right price, perhaps they move Foyer and sell high with him and bring somebody else in with that. I don't think that happens, because I don't think another team would be willing to give what the Jags would ask. And to be honest, at this point, what on the roster do they need bad enough to make such a trade? Like, it's not like they're getting they've done work at the D tackle. There's things that could happen. I hear you there. Or
top pass rusher. I say pass rusher. I'm not saying D line. I'm not saying. I'm sorry. I'm not saying D tackle. I'm not saying edge. I'm just saying either.
Okay.
If you give me a top option, and I'm trying to. I need to take a closer look at the free agent market, like who's going to be a free agent entering next season, to kind of come to better terms of what that might look like, because you never know. And between what the Jaguars actually have at receiver, because they're stacked at receiver right now, they just truly are. Where I could see between the cornerback, not the cornerback room, the safety room, across the board, like there's a lot of options. Like Social Alki says, like, hey man, Murray and Lewis are two I believe could be moved. I think that's absolutely reasonable. Based on contract, based on their ability to play. This is not like someone who's on the downslope of their career or anything like that. These are two players who play really well, and they're really good, floor raisers on your roster. They just got other dogs right behind them.
But you see the theme in all those theories, whether it's Murray, Lewis, or even Foyer. Not that I want Foyer to leave. God bless Foyer Aluakin. He's an awesome human being. This is still a pro Christian Kirk podcast, as awkward as that might sound at this point. But at day's end, we're both picking veterans who have, let's just say less of their career left. They're closer to the end than they are at the beginning at this point. Preston jokes. Trade for Etienne.
Jesus.
Stop it. Stop it.
Be better off trading for Alvin Kamara before that happens. But all right.
But instead of ETN, shouldn't it be ECHN now? Etienne? Anyway.
Man, I ain't getting into that nonsense.
But there's some nonsense I want to get in real quick. And I'm going off script a little bit, because I see this comment and listen, I know your finger is more on the pulse of the Duval devout than me, but I'm seeing what's his word? I'm seeing too much chatter about moving O-linemen. See, all lucky I can't find it now, so I can't go. Oh, here it is. And Robert, listen, this is no disrespect to you. But why is it? Let me read the comment. If Pregnon looks good and got that playbook down pat, maybe trade Ezra Cleveland. What are we doing?
So I'm not even going to answer that question. I'm not even going to answer that. Instead of answering that, I'm going to talk about something that I want to talk about anyways.
Okay.
And I think it would answer that question a little bit better than I probably could. So in answering the question, so I'm going to get to it in the second part of this, but we're going to just pivot to did Jacksonville do enough to hold on to that small margin that they had in 2025 in the AFC South?
Figure out the show. Okay, I got you.
No, because I know we're going to get to an answer to that question, but I want to take the scenic route so we can truly have this conversation. Because I mean,
I'm on the bus and I got the window seat. Let's roll.
Yeah, you want to talk about Pregnon being your future Ezra Cleveland? And you know what? You might be able to sell me on that just as soon as you tell me what you're going to do with Patrick McCarry and that plan is actually going to work. But all right, cool. So let me first off open the door and just answer that question. Did Jacksonville do enough to hold on to that small margin that they held in 2025 in the AFC South with the improvements that the other teams made? That's my first question.
Yeah, and I know a lot of the Duval are worried about what the Texans did to upgrade defensively, right? And it's easy for me to say, well, if CJ Stroud isn't that good, when 19 points in the fourth quarter were allowed by the Jaguars to let them back in the game. But may I remind the court that they needed a 19-point comeback with Davis Mills to even pull that off. And if the Jags are successful in trying to make running the football happen on the outside with these tight ends, they don't have enough time to go 19 points in the fourth quarter. So there's that, right? If you believe they've upgraded the secondary enough, which I know you mentioned them as the second percentage-wise, the second best improved position, and by volume, Travis, I believe we've said on this podcast that the DBs are the most improved position group, right?
Yes.
Volume. Yes. If everybody's covered, to whom will Stroud throw the ball? Right? So upgrading the defense is nice, but how much better? It's a diminishing return at this point, right? Call it, if you may, an embarrassment of riches on the defense for the Texans. And this is assume everybody stays healthy and all that other happy guff, by the way, which the Texans have struggled with a lot of injuries. Like, Stingley, as good as he is, has missed a lot of time. I'm taking nothing for listen, I know the rule is we're supposed to, in air quotes, dislike the Texans, but man, I respect ballers, and I know Derek Stingley's he's a baller. Okay. He's missed a lot of time. That's just the thing that's happened. Not that I'm throwing any shade at any team missing time with their DBs, looking back at the Duval divers out there, and you get my point. So, well, did they? Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm off on a tangent there.
No, I'm just because every team is either getting better or worse every offseason. That's obviously how it works. Even if you're standing still, you're getting worse because other teams are getting better. Like that's the rules. I didn't make them up.
Unless you're with the Jets, then they're always getting worse. But go ahead.
Yeah, but offensively, I thought Jacksonville arguably got stronger on the interior O-line. They obviously picked up Pregnon. You have to depend on some of that development of Wyatt Malum. Cool, whatever. I think they got stronger on the edges at tight end also. I mean, that's kind of hard not to when you draft that many guys and you replace the veteran guys who you had on stopgap kind of contracts. But I also believe like the Texans and the Titans, they both got better defensively. Yeah, I know PT Preston said the Texans lost some of their depth on defense. They also replaced it with some pretty good drafting. So I'm not sure if that's even a bad thing. The Titans got better on defense. That's the quiet part that folks ain't talking about out loud. The Colts defense got healthier, just getting back to Forrest Buckner and Sauce Gardner back. So I'm not going to pretend right now that this isn't an arms race, because it absolutely is. And from that perspective, I will then argue that the Jaguars are losing that arms race. The Jaguars are now depending on it being development, and I'm okay with that. If you're saying I'm going to moneyball this thing, and I'm not saying that that's what they're actually doing, I'm simply saying that they're focused on the development of that 2025 class, the development of the guys that they're bringing in, and those depth players to kind of play better and the whole to be better than the individual parts that you're bringing in. I ain't going to argue that. I'm cool with it.
Yeah. Go ahead. I know I like a lot of what you said there, Travis. Here's the only pushback I'd grant, and this is the part we don't know yet. The truth is, we still don't know. Yeah, we know it's a 9-game improvement. Yeah, we know it was Trevor's best year probably as a quarterback. Yeah, sure. Devin Lloyd had his single best year ever, and the question is, can he do it again? I'm sure I could pull a lot of different examples. You know, the emerging of another receiver in Jacoby Myers, Shoe Parker there out there somewhere, blah 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 blah, on. But we don't really know. You mentioned the arms race, which listen, for a while it was a running arms race, and then it became a passing a quarterback arms race, and Trevor made it that. We talked about that in the earlier editions of the Duval Dive. If you're wanting to go back into the archives, please feel free to listen, guys. But did Liam Cohen and Jimmy Stones improve so much last year that just because their rate of improvement from 25 to 6 is less than the other teams, is it fair to say they're losing the arms race? I don't know if I'm there, especially in the case of the Titans.
Well, I'm not going to say they're losing the arms race, not because they improved so much. All they did last year, let's keep it a buck. Let's keep a spade. They got better with subtraction in so many ways this past season. They got better just by not having a limited Christian Kirk, who was injured a good portion of the season, even last year. Excellent. They got better by not having that limited a limited tight end. Goodness gracious, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Evan Ingram. Goodness gracious, Evan Ingram, even as your leading tight end because of his blocking struggles. You got better. That's gonna be a hard conversation to say, but I'm gonna say it anyways. You potentially got better in this all season by not having a limited Travis Etienne. Ooh. I know folks ain't gonna want to hear that, but that's the argument to be made, because they wanted the guy who was going to be able to fall forward consistently, and while Etienne did better, maybe it wasn't good enough to be the guy that they wanted as far as being efficient and staying on the field and actually like just hitting that hole and going. I get it. But at the end of the day, my overall point is if you're not getting significantly better as far as those individual matchups, because what those playoff games come down to are those individual matchups. You're talking about playing against a playoff Colts team, and I know they're not a playoff Colts team, but had they not been injured, let's call a spade, that probably would have been one. Like they would have needed to win like 2 games.
That says more about the conference than it does the Colts, but go ahead.
Whatever. A playoff Texans team, you struggled against a Bills team that was a playoff team, and you struggled against the Rams and a Seahawks team. So now we're not comparing Jacksonville to what Jacksonville was. We're not comparing them to a losing franchise who won 4 games. We're not comparing them to these bottom dwellers. We're comparing you to the top of the cream of the crop. We're comparing you to the playoff teams. And when you're comparing to the playoff teams, eventually you're going to have to be able to win one-on-one matchups. And that's what it comes down to with how tight these AFC South games get. It comes down to the Titans, Colts, the Texans, top 11 defensively versus Jacksonville's top 11 on offense, one-on-one. Will guys be able to win their matchups? Will Jacksonville be able to get 1 yard when they need it? And you know, that sounds familiar. When you need 1 to 2 yards, can you get it? Or do you think you have to run the ball with your quarterback because you just can't run it inside because you don't have the dogs? It is an arms race. Be clear about that.
No, I hear that. But and a point I think that's worth mentioning that I was going to get to, but I think it said better here. But Social Alky reminding us of the trauma. I know Travis is not used to having a coaching staff who actually knows how to develop young players. I mean, he's not wrong. That's a thing, right?
Jesus. He's talking about Travis Hunter, to be clear.
Sure, but I mean, for all the youth they did bring in, obviously it's mostly Travis Hunter. And to be honest, we don't know his impact because the fact just when he was becoming truly interesting, not that he wasn't interesting before that, he got hurt. Right.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. But from my vantage point, this has been an offseason kind of with that Bills home wildcard game just sort of lingering in the backdrop. It's been lingering in the background from the fan base and maybe even for the Jaguars coaching staff too. Like that game, along with the Rams game and the Seahawks matchups that everybody keeps talking about. That's why the quote unquote why the Jaguars running so much 13 personnel. Those 3 games have kind of made this offseason's goal be about primarily just getting more physical. Like the Bills, Josh Allen, 10-yard quarterback sneak when you just got to get a stop. the end of the game 4-minute drive when you got a 4-point lead and you just can't get a stop. You got the 4th and 2 from the 9-yard line when you just gotta have it. And Patrick McCarry is that right guard, and he's immediately beaten with a swim move. You got on a snap where you need just a little bit of vertical separation. Your running back and Walker Little's pushed back 1 yard. And Robert Hainsey is combo blocking with Ezra Cleveland at left guard, but he gets beaten to the right and don't get much movement. Basically, 3 out of 4 of Buffalo's defensive line won when it mattered most.
What a great point by you.
Other than Ezra Cleveland, no offensive lineman won at the point of attack on that play. And if I say that play is in the backdrop for me, in my mind, of when I say you got to get more physical, it comes down to man on man. Are your dudes better than those dudes? And if they not get better dudes, well, did you get better dudes this offseason? Because Emmanuel Pregnon is one guy. And if you tell me you changing over Ezra Cleveland, the only one I saw on that play that actually did their damn job, I got questions for you.
Travis, I know I know that the show isn't going as we expected tonight, but that might be my favorite damn segment you've ever had. Holy snap! What a great point by you. I was going to make a comment about, how much Jacksonville wouldn't be in those positions if Leon had taken the points. Because if we're going to also mention the coaches for all the good, take the points, coach.
I'm just saying, it's literally the only offensive lineman to actually win their one-on-one rep on play. So if Jacksonville is going to be a better team in 2026, they got to be able to show like who's the most physical guy one-on-one. And if they're going to be more physical, that's where it starts. Is this offensive lineman better than that offensive lineman? So if that's Emmanuel Pregnon, you're competing with Patrick McCarry and Wyatt Milam for that left guard spot. Cool. Winner take all. And if you don't win that, then we'll see whatever happens. If he's good enough to beat Ezra Cleveland, dope. Good job. You have a great, that'd be a great situation.
If
I just have doubts.
Ezra, kick Ezra to the right guard, perhaps.
Whatever. Yeah, just put the best 5 on the field. But my point is, if we just saw a play that in my mind, it just keeps running over and over through my mind, like through my brain, that's the one. We got 3 plays. We got a 4-minute drive where the defense couldn't stop nobody. And that happened all throughout 2025. Mm-hmm. You got the Josh Allen play there. And you got what was it? I'm still missing one. There was another one, but yeah, the 10-yard quarterback sneak where you got like Buster Brown doing circles at the goal line. They end up basically just milking the rest of the clock because of that. Like that nonsense. Like it's all about being physical, and I get why that then became their offseason sort of mantra of just like, all right, you're not gonna get pushed around. Now I don't know if they did enough this offseason to say I'm not going to be pushed around versus just. It's a little different. And they had the tight ends, the 3 tight ends. That's good. The Emmanuel Pregnon, that's good. Chris Rodriguez, that's more physical. I will give you that. That is a more physical running back than Travis Etienne, who he actually falls forward. I will give you that. But there are still questions. So, and that's kind of where I don't know. Emmanuel Pregnon, run stopping defensive tackle who may give you a little bit more push in the pocket from the inside. I see the vision. I don't know if it's enough when you're comparing that to other teams that are already physical, and we ain't got questions on that. Mm-hmm. Houston Texans, for instance.
Well, and it's interesting. Preston brings up something. The Texans' woes on the line. I'm not sold it's over. Another top lineman traded. 2 vets that have struggled to stay on the field, and Trayvon Ragdoll's one of them. I mean, I get it, but I don't think our concerns, granted, listen, it's strength on strength, in my opinion. Well, that's not true. The Texans D-line is legit. That's the worry. I hear what you're saying about the Texans O-line not being all that in a bag of chips. Hell, I've been down on that since they moved Laramie Tunsil. I get it. Okay. But I'll put it this way. If I'm in a place where I can make comparisons between these 2 lines, a line that took Cam Robinson, who was a cast out from this Jaguars team, mm-hmm. That's not the space yet. Now, to your point, Travis, development is a thing. Who knows, right? Maybe Wyatt Milam will come out and be gangbusters, and he'll I don't know, he's a swing player. Maybe he's the one. He'll go full Walker Little and replace him at left tackle. Maybe that's what happens. All right. I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying that's on the board, right? For all the conversations we had last year about having guys on the O-line possibly making an impact in 3 different positions in some cases. Now, granted, Makari, it did not come to pass because listen, I think Father Time is declaring victory with him at this point, right? But Wyatt Milam's a guy that you might be able to do that. Hell, Cole Van Lannon, when healthy, is a guy you might be able to do that with. We've come to find out, right?
But there still is the lingering question of what Cole Van Lannon you're going to get.
Correct.
I mean, again, that's the part that no one's talking about, or if they are talking about it, there's only murmurs underneath, under the covers at night. Like basically, they're just whispers. All right, we'll see what happens there. No one really knows, and that's okay for folks not to know when it's a medical reasons. But at the end of the day, it's like, are you getting Cole Van Lannon, or are you back to Walker Little, who you already didn't like? That's why you went with Cole Van Lannon in the first place in the middle of a season, which generally does not happen with NFL franchises.
Great point.
Let's remember that. Most franchises aren't changing.
Travis, I love it.
Most franchises are not changing over their starting left tackle in the middle of the season. That generally does not happen.
Yeah.
That did, and you might be having that guy be your starting left tackle week 1. Which could potentially be against the Cleveland Browns. We'll see. That'll be real interesting.
The last time I remember seeing that much movement when the Jaguars involved a suspension of one Cam Robinson when they pulled Walker Little in to back him up and he had a coming out game against Dallas, right? So an interesting point Social wants to bring up that I want to address quickly. Why does it seem like bringing in Pregnon makes us not believe in Milam? Those will be our future guards. Social, I think it's like this. Let Ezra and Makari retire first, and that'll be the case, right? There's something to be said for that.
Retire.
This is assuming everybody stays around long enough. I'm just, whatever. I'm not saying this is something that's immediate, right? Because he used the word future. I'm thinking future, right?
I got you.
But if the worst case scenario is you get a fantastic backup in Wyatt Milam, O-line depth is something, as long as I've been covering this team, which is only a fraction as long as Travis has been watching it, I know. But as long as I've been covering this team, line depth, not great, Bob, overall, right? I think your point, Social, that's a big deal. And it's not that we don't believe in Wyatt Milam, it's just fans talk in terms of starters, and that's just where we've been. That's all.
Why are we pretending? Why can't we be honest? Duval Devout fan base. If you were listening to the sound of my voice, Kyle is the offensive line guy, and he's also a very nice person. Like, Kyle lives with both parents. Kyle's parents, like it's the 8 Mile phrase all over again. Now, Kyle is obviously a nice guy. He ain't trying to be honest with y'all right now.
It's not Clarence. I get it.
We've seen a good amount from Wyatt Milam to let us know. All right, there's something. There could be something there, and I'm okay with landing at that point. But when y'all go a little too far to the right, and then y'all be like, all right, now he's the future of the franchise, he's the future of the organization, he's your future left guard, he's your future right guard. I don't know, is he? Maybe, because we see a lot of folks with small sample sizes that don't pan out, and we also see guys who don't show a lot those first few years, and all of a sudden they develop into great players. I'm okay just being like, hey man, we brought in another guy, and that other guy might beat out the old guy you thought was the guy, and then we bring in a third guy in 2 years, and that third guy might beat out the other guy who you swore was the guy. I don't care. This is called competition. At the end of the day, somebody's going to win this bad boy, and it might not be the guy you thought it was or the guy after that, because they only had one draft, and they only can draft the guys who are available at that time. They seem to believe in Wyatt Milam based on everything that they say in the locker room, and based on every time we talk to the coaches and the EVP and the GM and everybody else, they seem to love the guy, and that's dope. And that means nothing. I want to be real clear. That can still mean nothing. He's going to have to earn it on the field, and if he's not able to step up and the next guy is when they draft him immediately because they love drafting these older prospects, guess what that's going to mean? Nothing for their prospects of the future and everything about right now. So maybe Emmanuel Pregnon is the future. Maybe not, man, because they only get one draft in that one class, and that's the same conversation for Caleb Ransall versus Jalen Husky right now.
I was going to ask if that transferred over, yeah. No, that's a good point.
It's the same combo.
And here's the thing. To Social's credit, I appreciate him doing the thing and staying consistent with the approach of in-stones he trusts. God, say what you will for our loyal commenters, Social Alki among them. He's a member. Listen, PJ Brown wins money in bets. Social Alki believes in stones. That's all it is. Okay? That's all I see.
That's facts.
You know. But yeah, and see, and he says you're preaching what he's trying to put down anyway. Yeah, but like I said, just because we don't talk about him as a starter doesn't mean belief is gone. Travis has been consistent. It ain't just the commenters that been consistent. My personal champion has been consistent. It's like, show me. You might say show me once a show in the offseason. Like that's a thing, ladies and gentlemen.
That's it. Yeah, I tell you, I believe in that. Just like I believe in this. Like I don't believe in what they call it, potential. Like I hate potential. I hate the word potential. And again, I'm a walk-on guy, former walk-on in college, who can tell you I should believe in potential. Everything in my core tells me I should believe in the idea of potential.
Hold on. What's because I don't mean to tell you about your life, but what's more show me than a walk-on coming in and handling business against a really good receiver core in the history of that university that time, I might add.
Because I also know a lot of it's just pure luck. And as much as
everything in life, hell, I mean, the Patriots got the Super Bowl with pure luck this past season. What we talk about?
A lot of luck and a lot of cheating. Like, let's be clear. There was a lot of cheating and a lot of extracurriculars going on there with the Patriots.
But they're trying. Your point, that's all.
But to your point, like if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Like that's the gospel. Every team that's won multiple championships in a small window has absolutely got some kind of scandal that's looming in the background. So I fully understand it. Dallas Cowboys, them boys was wild. New Orleans Saints, they had the whole what is it, the whole, like, they're paying players on the side the
bounty gate thing.
Yeah, the bounty gate and everything. Like, everybody got something and nobody cares because you won. So just win, and we'll let everybody else argue about why they shouldn't have won, why you over there counting your money and counting your trophies. Like, I'm cool with that too. Speaking of that, the Jaguars got to get some more players who got like misdemeanors or something. Like, I think that's the next stage of this process. Yeah, like, because that's the next stage. Like, I'm happy they got the LaQuint Allens, who was dogs out there, and they got a lot of guys who you absolutely would want to take you to the club if you about to get into a fight and anything. If stuff about to go down, I need guys like that. But also, we get into that we get into that stage where, all right, I don't mind the team taking a little risky risk, on this one guy or that one guy that might just punch somebody in the face every so often. Hey man, just get the W's at the end of the day.
I mean, let's take nothing from Q. Like, he was trying to start stuff with Max Crosby. I'm just saying, like,
that's fair. That boy was wanting to fight everybody. LaQuint Allen be wanting to fight. I love that 2-piece no biscuit in the offseason. That was him and Branson Combs, wasn't it? That was fighting in training camp. That jump was so fun. LaQuint Allen, man, dog.
I hesitate to bring this up because it might put you on blast a little bit.
Not social. I get asking how old am I? Was I there with the Bills wide receiver? No, man. I was at UCF with Brandon Marshall and Mike Sims Walker. Ooh. Those were the guys I played with. I'm that old.
If you make a quarter century team for UCF, which I've done with at the time it was the Better Ant, but now it's UCF Night Zone and Locked On UCF. But both those guys are in conversations for a quarter century team for UCF. Absolutely.
Good players.
And yeah, you listen. Yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah,
black
don't crap, but yeah, that's why folks don't. They're like, oh dang, you that old? Yeah, I know I'm old. I know I'm unk. Yeah, I'm okay with it.
I mean, listen, you ain't got the unk beard, right? Like, I'm gonna have to check your bathroom for just for men because I don't see any salt and pepper in your beard, dude. That's what it is. That's why they don't know. You hiding the salt and pepper. Like, I'm not gonna push it. See what I did there? But like, that's why you don't look that old, is because you ain't got the salt and pepper, man. That's what it is.
And I am absolutely USAF Martin.
I was going to ask you this.
Absolutely. He's late on this, but the Jags Steelers is a rivalry game. Yeah, folks don't know that. And I say folks because, again, like,
is how I'd word it, right?
Like social, like it says, I'm old, so I'm old enough to remember. Patrick Strong remembers. I'm old enough to remember when the Jaguars played in the old AFC Central, because they at one point they had 6 teams in the AFC Central, which was before they had the AFC South and before they had the AFC North. So it was like the Jaguars were there in that same division with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens and all those guys. Again, they had 6 teams in that crazy division, and the Jaguars actually had 2 division championships and made the playoffs like 4 years straight in that division. So the Jaguars were like dominant at that time. That was like 1996 to like 1999 range.
Remember, like, I think the thing that might help the Duval is if you look up the David Garrard run in the playoffs, that was against the Steelers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And keep in mind, this is the 49er faithful pointing that game out. Not for nothing. True, I am a student of the game after all. But
no. So on my Big Cat Country article that hasn't even published yet because the schedule hasn't dropped yet, but I already got it like halfway written. That's one of the conversations is talking about the AFC.
You know,
yeah. Just look forward to tomorrow night. Yeah, the AFC Central affair. That's going to be real interesting because that's probably why, if from my perspective, anyways, the Jaguars would have protected that Pittsburgh game. Like, it's a rivalry. We have a legitimate rivalry with that team, and the Jaguar fans don't generally get to see a Pittsburgh Steelers Jacksonville Jaguars matchup.
And you gotta wonder, Travis, if the EVP being Hall of Famer Tony Pacelli is a factor in this.
You gotta believe that man was on the roster when they were actually playing and against them dudes, and the Jaguars were owning the Steelers for much of that time. It's got to be in the part of the conversation.
I got to pull this in because I got to hold myself accountable. Real MVP 8082. I'm on the record saying this myself. I actually like Walker Little at guard over Patrick McCarry, and no one is talking about Cole Van Lanen anymore, even though we re-signed him to that decent contract. Yeah, the reason why we're not talking about Van Lanen MVP is because of the injury concerns, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when he plays, it's going to be left tackle. But to your point, based on what we saw last year, who knows? Patrick McCarry may have healed up a bit. Maybe things will go better. But there's something to be said for Walker Little being more useful at guard. Now, on this show as well, you've had some show don't tells of moments where Walker Little struggled, but no more than Patrick McCarry. That doesn't just because that's the case. That doesn't mean that Little isn't an upgrade. Now, is he an expensive upgrade to do that? You bet. But so is Patrick McCarry.
You know. And you're always going to have him on that roster until you know 110% that Cole Van Lanen is not just healthy, but like healthy for some time frame. I don't know what that time frame even looks like. Everybody has their own risk, their ability to be risk adverse. Like that's going to be the interesting kind of part of that I want to watch, because you're talking about a big man with a knee. That's always going to be interesting. All right, when he comes back, are you then comfortable letting Walker Little not be on the roster? Or are you then comfortable letting Walker Little truly compete at that right guard spot, and whatever happens to Patrick McCarry and or Walker Little, whoever loses that role, like that competition just happens? Or are you going to keep those guys on the roster for the entire season just in case, because injuries happen and it's the NFL? That's the other piece.
I don't know what more I can add to it than that. So the answer to the question of did the Jags do enough, and I think we're in agreement, we're afraid the answer might be no. And it's entirely, it sounds like, because of the offensive line.
This is a new season that's exactly like last season. And going into last season, there's no Jacksonville Jaguars fans that were going into the season saying straight up, the Jaguars, they're good enough. They're good enough to win 10 games, 13 games, 15 games, whatever it is. And now we've seen proof of concept that makes people trust in the coaching staff, trust in the quarterback, trust in all these guys. But also, you don't know what you're going to get this second season as far as development, and it's all based on development. And we saw the development last year from a lot of guys, and now they're asking for development again from the 2025 draft class and any of the other guys who are just already in house. So now you're going into the season again blind with what you're truly going to have on some of those spots that you knew you needed a little bit more help. I trust in the staff. I trust in a lot of the players, but that don't mean that they did enough, because you're still, it's a risk. And I'm okay with saying that it is absolutely a risky situation to be in, but the Jaguars seem to be bold enough, quote unquote, that they're willing to take that chance because they believe in their staff just that much. I'm going to give them the time to wait and see what happens there.
And Reyes in the comments puts out one correction. Nobody believed in the Jaguars except for me and my crackheady take. Here's the thing, Reyes. Let me keep history accurate, okay? You want to know why my crackheady take was crackheady? I told you that there would be a 9-win division winner in Jacksonville winning the division. Now, did I lean into Jacksonville winning the division being correct and kind of brush that 9-win thing off to the side? You bet your entire rear end I did. Okay. But I didn't believe in the team to get 13 wins, as Travis said. That's the precise statement. And that's why it's so crackheady. I knew everybody was, air quotes, everybody was going to fall off. Little did I know that the Texans was rattle off 8 straight. I couldn't find 5 wins on the Colts schedule last year. I said that on record. Whoops. And then, the Texans were,
And I was the only one that said the Colts were going to win. I think I predicted 10 games, and I probably would have hit that 10-game mark if they didn't have the injuries. If they didn't have the injuries specifically to the quarterback position, even the other injuries, they still probably would have hit 10 games. So I was early on the Colts being as good as they were. I thought it was going to be exactly the kind of offense that they ended up running. And I was reasonably fine on the Jaguars because I said I didn't see 14 wins because folks were going crazy, as y'all often to do. Folks, fans are fanatic. That's literally the base word in the word. I get it. But folks were like, 13, 12, 14 wins. And I'm like, I don't see this on this roster. But in my Big Cat Country season prediction, I then said the Jaguars were going to win 10 games, and I see a ceiling of 13 wins if everything goes right as far as injuries and everything else. And everything seemed to generally go right, especially those Colts games where they're playing those 2 guys injured, and the Titans were not good. That kind of helped also.
Yeah, that did it. Well, and let's you're putting an awful lot on Indiana Jones there, okay? Like,
I'm just saying it's margins when you're talking about the difference between the 11 games.
You're right, exactly.
Yeah, that's all I was getting at.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they started off 4-3 in those first 7 games, and that's about the type of season that I expected. Difficult dog fight where they might be a little bit above 500, and then they hit the easier part of the schedule and kind of start racking it up. That's kind of where we are.
Fair enough. Social Alki looking for the early. Any predictions yet for 20? Listen. Social, buddy. Tomorrow, they're going to release the schedule. We're going to instant react to it tomorrow night here on the Duval Dive. You'll get some way too early predictions perhaps there. Right. But the night before the schedule,
we haven't even seen how it's going to go out. All we know is the 2 London games, maybe the season opener, and maybe a few primetime games that we've heard about under the radar. But I ain't even saying them out loud yet. But yeah, but overall, like, I don't know. We'll see. We got you guys tomorrow night again, a special Duval Dive live where we react to the schedule, maybe have a little bit more information as far as like where the Jaguars actually are going to be primetime wise. But again, I believe that they're going to have at least, let's say, 3. Let's go with a crazy number. Let's say 5 primetime games.
Ooh, you're putting it
London. If you're counting London, let's go with that.
Does London count as primetime? Yeah,
it does not. But I don't care. They're the only team on TV. I'm counting it.
Interesting. So with that being said, we're darn near an hour, Travis. I think it's time for you to let people know.
And we will get Bucky on the schedule again. I'm already texting with him. We're going to figure it out because we had IT issues and everything else. We got you.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, listen, these are things that happen, and we're going to come through for you, Duval. Don't you worry about that. But what you do need to do is make sure you're here with us tomorrow on the instant reaction. So, with that in mind, champion, tell the world.
Well, you can find me at bigcatcountry.com. Again, take a look at, we're going to have the schedule release article that's going to be out, and it's going to be a lot bigger than just your, hey, this is who the Jaguars play. Please read. No, but for real though, if I write an article, I don't even care if you read it. Click the link though, for sure. Do that. Help me there. And no different. If you're listening to this podcast, click that like button. Like, I see how many of y'all looking right now. Obviously, please do us that quick favor. Just click that like button. If you listen to on the audio side, follow us. rate and review us. Help us out there. It helps us tremendously. It costs you nothing. But again, they tell us the algorithm and the way that it works and all the AI and everything else. Somehow we get paid. I don't know, but we get paid when you click like. So please click like and help us out there. But yeah, BigCatCountry.com, the Duval Dive on TikTok, the Duval Dive on X, Travis D. Holmes on all the socials, and BigCatCountry.com for any of our written work. I got you. But let them know where you can be found.
It's like Travis says, it costs you nothing. It keeps us in the game. Okay. Because I need something to show the wife to keep me in the game for the stuff, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I'm saying. Of course, I'm Kyle Nass, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the student of the game. Check out my writings on UCF Night Zone, covering the UCF Knights, as well as Locked On UCF, covering all things UCF basketball. I know they're going crazy in the comments, dude. All things UCF football and basketball, as well as my work covering the UFL's Orlando Storm, the Storm Surge podcast. Travis, the past 2 weeks, we've had players on the Storm Surge, and then they've had good games afterward. Tavante Beckett at linebacker, we're hoping he'll do the same as they prepare to line up for the Dallas Renegades Friday night. So make sure you check that out. Storm Surge podcast will drop on Friday morning. And yeah, the Magic are eliminated. So that's all the things I'm doing. Hit the like buttons on both YouTube accounts. Robert getting more creative than Storm did in the last show. Throw a chair at the like button.
No. Do it better. Create like 2 more YouTube accounts and then like it on those too. I appreciate you.
Well, let's not promote hacking. We don't want to get banned. But also, we don't want to tell you how to live your life either. So
I'm joking. Unless you're gonna do it.
But yeah, like Travis said, we're gonna work out another time for Bucky. There was a technical issue on his, and we've come to find out. We'll work to get that to you. When it happens, we'll let you know. But make sure you're there tomorrow night for the instant reaction. So for my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, this is Kyle Nash, student of the game. All you divers in the comments, good gravy. This is great theater from you guys. I really struggle to pay attention sometimes because y'all get fun. And I got to watch this show and do the thing and be a host. And it's great. It's, what? It's the best problem someone can have. So, but anyways, with all that in mind, until next time, everyone, class dismissed.